بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بارك الله فيكم وجزاكالله خير. One thing that we notice as we go through the book, it's the recurring theme of the deception of Shaytaan. And the other day I had a session with some brothers, and before I was in Australia last week, and we kept talking about the same thing. What's the main cause of the problems that we're faced with today? So we have to understand the problems first before we can offer solutions. First, we have to understand that there is a disease and there's a cure. And different people said, well, it's modernization. Others said it's feminism. Others said it's social media. Others said it's LGBTQ. Others said it's whatever, the West and the Jews and this and that. And I said the master CEO of all these problems is Shaytaan. First and foremost is Shaytaan. Don't think that Shaytaan uses sticks and stones. Right? Shaytaan is always understanding current issues. He understands what's going on in the world. He's had a lot of experience. Sometimes we get deceived, the deception of Shaytaan, of Iblis, to think that, well, is he really there? How is he? Western movies give you this portrait of Shaytaan as you know, exorcism and the nun and all these things, right? And people don't really understand, actually, Iblis is a spirit and was a pious spirit that worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that basically lost his way. Due to arrogance, his kibr. So it's not about these images that we get in the media. And a lot of times, because of our attachment to technology, it's hard for us to conceptualize that there's an actual entity that is around us. So actually, all of us have one with us right now. It's called al-Qareen. But we don't really think about it, right? It's not like you're aware that whether you forgot your wallet or not. Like, let's say you leave the house without a wallet, you're gonna be like, oh my God, where's my wallet? Worst, your phone. If you forget your phone, is like the worst thing ever, right? It's no way. I mean, you might not turn around for your wallet, but for your phone, you're gonna turn around, right? So, because there's an awareness that something is there or not there. However, when it comes to this qareen, this Shaytaan, we're not really aware. And the Prophet ﷺ said, every single one of you has a qareen. They said, Ya Rasulullah, even you? He said, even me. But Allah helped me to actually defeat him, so he only incites me towards good. People be like, oh, what is this? The Christians make fun of this hadith. They say, oh, look, there's a devil. A devil is not the Christian concept of the devil. A devil, a Shaytaan, is a jinn or a spirit that has turned bad. Okay, so it's a Shaytaan. There's also many among them actually, who are Shaytaan or Shayateen from the ins. Because Allah says very clearly, min al-jinnati wan-nas. So there's jinn and humans. Both can be Shaytaan when they're evil, or both can be good when they follow the deen. So they are Muslim jinn. They pray, and we know in Surah Jinn and other surahs in the Quran where inna sami'na Qur'anan ajaba yahdi ila rushd. So they believe. فآمنا. They believe. They're Muslims. They submit. Okay, very clearly. We're not allowed to interact. We're not allowed to do this. We're not allowed to do that. I think I've said the story before of my friend who embraced Islam from the jinn, right? Some of the brothers know him, maybe. But he lives here in Malaysia. But once the jinn understood that it's not allowed to communicate with the humans, he himself told the brother that we cannot be together anymore. And actually it was after Jummah Salah. Other jinn told them that he's not allowed to communicate with this boy. So he came and said, "Khalas, I cannot." They changed my name from Nuh to Nuh, and now we have to say goodbyes. It was the jinn who told him, look for the Quran, look into Islam and all that. The brothers are looking and so on. But they're not allowed to communicate. He understood, he learned, and he pulled away. He was a Muslim, alhamdulillah. So the brother became Muslim from the jinn, because of the jinn, right? Long story. I said it in the class before. He's a, mashallah, good brother. He works with us. He's a great, mashallah, story. And even his brother became Muslim after, and mashallah. But bottom line is, we are kind of not aware of this presence. And this is one of his deception, that we're not on guard. Right? People eat with the left hand. They think it's not a big deal. Eat, okay, but they know that Shaytaan, من أكل بالشمال أكل الشيطان معه. Whoever eats with the left, Shaytaan will eat with him. We don't, sometimes you see people, no problem, right? Say Bismillah before you eat. Again, it's like we think it's become a tradition for us. Entering the bathroom. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal khaba'ith. Sometimes we forget. Exiting, ghufranak. We forget. Waking up. A big one. Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma matana wa ilayhi nushur. Okay, go to the bathroom, you make wudu. Prophet said, knots are being untied. Right? When you make wudu, you pray your sunnah, you pray salah, fard. Slowly each knot gets untied. Again, conceptualizing, you'll be like, what is this? We need to find some Hollywood movie or some Netflix series to somehow connect the visuals, and then maybe we're like, well, you know. But it is from Al-Ghaib, the unseen. And again, this hadith is amazing, but people say, oh, what is this hadith? The Prophet said very clearly, the Shaytaan will urinate in your ear. People are like, oh, what is this? Ha 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 ha. Right? Well, you're an idiot. Because what did you prove that it doesn't? How do you prove that it happened? What do you prove it? Well, just the slumber that you wake up in. Everything, all your senses are. No one wakes up and they're like, yeah, let's go. Right? You're kind of like, right? It takes a bit of time. Almost like there's some knots that are being slowly untied. None of you wake up like that. None of you. Everyone's like, ugh. There's this fog for the first few minutes. And a lot of us need a bit of coffee too, isn't it? To like get up a little bit, right? SubhanAllah. When you look at this, people make fun of the deen. They have no reason, no rationale. It's called attempt or appeal to ridicule. Oh, urinate in the ear, right? And like, what did you prove? Nothing. Just because it's from the unseen. How and this and that. Oh, how is the Shaytaan close to us? How and what? And we cannot see. How are you trying to rationalize something that you cannot see? It's irrational to rationalize it because you cannot see it. But people try to always take one on top of the believers. Oh, you guys are so uneducated. We philosophers and atheists, and we're so smart. No, you're actually quite not smart because you have no senses to gauge this issue. So how are you making fun of it? Okay? So, bottom line is the Shaytaan is always looking for ways to misguide humanity because he has promised it. And a lot of us are unaware, and therefore we lower our guard and we don't take it so seriously. At least we should be aware of his tricks and how he does things, so we can try to fight it as much as possible. And the Prophet ﷺ gave us ways to fight this. And he told us, "Inna kayda shaytani kana da'if." Okay? The plot of the devil is weak. It is weak. And he just kind of whispers. And I would say the waswas of Shaytaan, coming from a mental health background, the waswas of Shaytaan is like intrusive thoughts. Right? You can really equate it to intrusive thoughts. Sometimes you're like, where these things come from? Like, I'm not like that. Why is this thought coming to my mind? Where is this thing coming from? You know what I mean? It's like, it's out of character for me to think that way. You know yourself. And you're like, oh, wait a second. How is, sometimes just sitting, just pondering, might be driving, maybe you're about to sleep, and all of a sudden something comes to you. It's like, what is that? Where's that coming from? And it changes the way you feel about yourself even. It might push you towards thinking, oh, maybe I should try this, maybe I should do that. But I'm not like that. I wasn't taught like that. My parents didn't raise me like that. My imam and my community don't do these things. Where's this thing coming from? It's a waswasa. Sadly, some of our ulama today, they say hands off. This is mental health. Go talk to a psychologist. You go to a psychologist, he tells you, man, it's your Islam, that's the problem. Why are you thinking all these things, haram, halal, everything haram, halal? Yani, leave it, live your life, relax. Here's some medicine, relax, take some alcohol, calm down, chill, go smoke a bit of weed, go to the club, relax, commit some zina. Honestly, like, a lot of my clients come and say, man, I can't go to these people. Because they always tell, like, what's wrong with you? The problem is with you, that you're feeling this way, and it's your cognitive dissonance. On one side, you have desires, which is true. All of us have desires. This is true. And on the other side, you have your moral, ethical, cultural standards. They say, your mom and dad taught you this way. You went to madrasa. And now these two are against each other, in contradiction. That contradiction is causing anxiety. I feel this way, but I'm taught another way. So now you're in this anxious state all the time. Anxious. If untreated, it leads to depression. Right? Now you can't sleep, you're waking up, you don't want to pray anymore, you find it hard to pray, hard to focus. You're looking for any kind of escapism, which usually is in the form of movies, TikTok, shorts, things that are high dopamine boost fast, right? Others will go for things that kind of relax you, depressants basically, such as smoking, marijuana, drugs, and so on, just to kind of numb down and forget. So it depends, different reactions, right? But it's that dissonance that's causing. So some of the so-called secular people will say, well, if you eliminate one of the opposing forces, you just go one direction. And you're a human being, and we live in a world of hedonism. It's democracy, it is capitalism, it is hedonism. If you look around, everything is based on what people want. It's just the way it is. It's demand supply. We have to understand. We have to understand that the world is a world of demand supply. We are consumers, and this is how humanity is right now. We want something, it will be made for us. It's just, people say it's to facilitate this, to make life easier, to help us. However, not all things are good for us. So a lot of people, ulama, imams will say, hands off, sorry, I can't help you. This is a mental health issue. Please go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist will say, good day, came to me. What are your symptoms? He won't touch you. There will be no basic interaction, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. What are your symptoms? Symptoms are, I feel this, I can't sleep, whatever, I have intrusive thoughts, anxiety, I feel butterflies, I don't want to go to work, I want to stay in my room, I want to watch YouTube, escapism, all these things. Okay, that looks in the manual, statistical manual of diagnosis, looks at what are the prescriptions. It will be Prozac, it will be diazepam, it will be whatever they'll give you, right? And it's like popping it like, there's no tomorrow. I mean, pills are being dismissed and dispensed at a very, very high rate. Here, but especially in the West, like England, USA, and you're looking at like middle, upper class, many people are on antidepressant. If you don't have a shrink, they call him a shrink, It's ongoing. You have to go there, right? The whole psychoanalytical approach where you lie down and you just talk about your feelings for an hour. Guy takes notes, the movie type of therapy. Most people, upper and middle upper class, will have a weekly session with this person. Of course, they will be on their prescription. And on top of that, all kinds of escape mechanisms to escape the reality. And Shaytaan is fooling them with that. Social media. What is social media? They call them influencers, right? So it's the influencers. I mean, all of us are influenced. Sometimes my head is like, man, you just find yourself, right? And then you find a video that says something funny and oh, stop. Why are you scrolling all the time? Right? You know those videos, right? And you're like, oh man, what the heck am I doing? Right? You're just wasting your time. Right? You've seen those videos, right? And I was like, what am I doing? Like really? Because until then you don't realize it. You don't catch yourself. You're just like, tuk, 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 tuk. And some Islamic videos and you almost explain it to yourself, yeah, it's Islamic. Wow, it's a benefit. And then some non-Islamic comes in, like, oh, okay. And an Islamic one comes in. It's subhanAllah. And Shaytaan is smart. He works with these things. What is it? Influence. They're bites of information that cause changes in you. And that's waswasa. Okay, it's from nas, from people, but no doubt the Shaytaan has a hand in there, without a doubt. Don't think that all these things cannot happen through social media, through these movies. And I was talking to one brother who was explaining, he said, look, for example, if someone gives you ayn or hasad, it's from the eye, isn't it? Now, for those who study anything to the science behind sight, right? It's based on light and image inversion and so on. And it's basically energy. But that's exactly what the phone is, right? The phone gives light. Your eye sees it. It works on the image. It's connected to the brain. It influences the same way you see everything in front of you. So obviously Shaytaan, so if it goes one way, you can give hasad this way, it can also come back the other way around. It also has to enter from somewhere. Allahu alim how, but without a doubt, the Shaytaan is going to work through these things. So Shaytaan is very up to date with the most modern procedures of influence and deception and so on. And if Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah would be alive in our time, I'm very, very sure, Allahu alam, but I'm sure that he would have added these things in his book. Because we see when we went through the book, right, the deception of the Sufis, the deception of this, of the philosophers, we went through so many, like there's so many categories, right? As we went through their book, there's just so many categories. Like he's really ripped every single small category apart, right? The people who this, the people that, dress and food and this. We went into so many details, right? That you find that it's like boring or redundant. But he really tried to show people how diversified the deception is. It's not just one way, right? He can deceive you in, oh, I'm going to eat less. Oh, I'm going to eat more. Oh, I'm going to not dress properly. It just messes with you. Some people is nice dress. Some people don't. They want to have ripped breasts to look this way. And Shaytaan just messes with your intention, right? It's really, really a very devout enemy. One of the sheikhs said that if Shaytaan would be hired to be a worker, he would be the best worker. He's always on time. He's very persistent. He doesn't give up. Just really, really constantly pushing hard. And he will not leave. So, I guess to wrap up this book, I will say there was a book by one of the scholars who went through some of the deviations and the sects in Islam. And he said that in the end, all these people have one thing in common. All these issues have one thing in common, is that Shaytaan misguided them. And we're in a time where we have to be as realistic as possible. Like, let us not fool ourselves that we are good, or because we're taking some lessons, or we're teaching, or we are doing lectures, the shaitan is somehow not around. Actually, he'll probably be even more interested in us and work harder on us than on the other people. And we have to understand, at least be humble enough to understand that we're not better than others, that we are more responsible even because we are learning, and that shaitan is going to target us, and that it's very easy, it is very foolish for us to be safe in our deen, to think that, okay, I'm safe, I'm a Muslim. I've seen people praying Fajr in the first line and then leaving Islam, having left Islam. That's just the way. It's so sad. Your heart is almost like about to break. When you prayed next to that person, you would walk in the masjid at Fajr, for example, and he's already there in the first line reading Quran, making dua. Okay?
What happened?
Long story, maybe in a different discussion. But I cannot, specifically this one brother, because I'm the one who gave him Shahada. Right? So it's really, and I know other ones, but it's really, really heartbreaking to sometimes see how the shaitan can misguide. And in Canada, for example, one thing that used to stand out with this one brother is that he would ride his bike in the snow to get to Fajr, his mountain bike, And it was like a good 2-3 kilometers. From the university to the masjid, about good 2-3 kilometers. And I'll walk in the masjid at Fajr and he's already there praying, making dua, and this and that. And now he is a kafir. Right? So it's so heartbreaking. It's been a long time now, but it's still, I cannot forget these things. But shaitan has his way. It was slow. It was a slow process. It was doubts. It was attacks. And using the different desires, the different confusions, and slowly, no matter what you would say, no matter what I try to do, he just wasn't having it. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that مَن يَهْدِهِ اللَّهُ فَلَا مُضِلَّ لَهُ وَمَن يُضْلِلْ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ. Right? Whoever Allah guides, there's no one who can misguide him. Whoever is misguided, no one can guide him. When Allah says, وَاللَّهُ يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ, Allah guides whom He wills. Wallahi, that's just the way it is. People try to think that, well, what does it mean? Allah guides whom, those who people want. Yeah, Allah guides whom He wills. It's just the way it is. Like, I was talking to one of my Italian friends, converts, right? And he's been Muslim also for like 20 years. We became Muslim maybe like 5 months apart, 4 months apart. Brother Adamo. May Allah protect him. And I said, how we're still in Islam? How come? Because we went through so many difficulties, especially first 5-10 years was horrible. Like, he got kicked out of the house. His dad would kick him in the back when he would see him in sujood. He would kick him in the middle of winter outside. And we're like sometimes like, and he like had more trouble than me. Like, he went from like, mashallah, he jumped so many different things, subhanAllah. This is the brother maybe I told you about, that we were in Medina, and he was Shia at that time. And right, we made, I said, how come Allah will allow Abu Bakr to be buried next to the Prophet ﷺ? And he said, oh, subhanAllah, right? Because they don't like Abu Bakr, right? Radiallahu anhu. Anyway, so we're sometimes looking back when we meet and we're like, how Allah, like, how come we're still Muslim? Right? Because see, if we leave Islam, like, no one really cares, man. Our family is going to be like, woohoo, It's not going to be like you, Our families will be like, yes, finally. Right? So, literally we said, it's just Allah guides whom He wills. In Allah yahdi man yasha. Allah guides whom He wills. We don't know. As Isa alayhi salam says at the end of Surah Maryam, right? تَعْلَمُ مَا فِي نَفْسِي. You know what's in me. وَلَا أَعْلَمُ مَا فِي نَفْسِي. I don't know what's in you. You know what, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya Isa, did I tell you to, or people to worship you and your mother? He says, Ya Allah, you know what's in me. And I don't know what you think or what you decide. As I was with them, I tried my best. But when you took me, then you know what they've done. Right? Like that I didn't say these things. Right? So Allah, He knows what, how, who deserves, who doesn't deserve, what's the criteria. Some people know the criteria is for you to do this. Allah, there's some people, they never wanted Islam. They were gangsters. They were the worst people. You can never think they'll be Muslims. And Allah guided them. You know them. Look at Muta, Napoleon. Okay? And many others. Brother Loon. Right? Proper gangsters. The worst. Womanizers before. All kinds of things. Druggies, whatever you name it. Proper, so. The brother who's here in Malaysia. Who's got that bike thing. Vince, or whatever his name is. The Italian guy. From Australia. What's his name? Right. Vince, right? Look at his background. Where is he coming from, man? How Allah guides someone like that. Right? And then there are someone like John Esposito, who is more knowledgeable in Islam than maybe all of us here. Right? But he's a Catholic. Right? He's a Christian. He knows more Arabic and Islam maybe than all of us here. And how many books he's written on Islam. And he's not a Muslim. He's proper, staunch Catholic. He respects Islam, but he's a Catholic. So Allah, how come? Allah yahdi man yasha. Allah guides whom He wills. That's just the way it is. Wallahi, when Allah says, Sadaqallahu al-Azim, it's just the way it is. Yeah. So, to wrap it up, brothers and sisters, all these groups, all these things, all the stuff we went through, in the end, Shaytaan misguides people. We have to be always aware. We have to keep praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show us hidayah. Because we cannot be guided by our own ways and our own deeds. And the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, even you, you will enter Jannah by the rahmah of Allah. He said, even me. Right? Bi rahmatika ya arhamur rahimin. With your mercy. You can work as much as you want. That doesn't mean you don't work. You should work. But as much as you work, don't ever be fooled by Shaytaan. I did this or I did that. Right? Always have tawada. Always have humbleness and try your best to, right? Be careful. As Imam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says, that it might be that you will enter Jahannam because of a good deed. And Jannah because of a sin. How? Because you will boast and think you're good from the good deed. Oh, I did this. Oh, and your whole life you will show off, and this is riyah. And sometimes a sin, you remember all the time what you've done, and this will cause you to keep repenting and know how bad you are really, and keep you somehow restrained and always repent and remember that, okay, I'm nothing. And that is going to keep you, inshallah, in check. I'm not saying go sin or don't go do deeds. Right? Don't misunderstand me. It's just the mindset on how to deal with these two issues. Right? We all sin, we all make mistakes, but just remind yourself every time someone praises you. Someone says, mashallah, sister, mashallah, brother, right? Remember who you really are. Only you know, and Allah knows what happens in private. Right? Whenever anyone praises you, always remember. Don't let these praises to get too high to your head. And always remember your sins and ask Allah for forgiveness. When you wake up at night to pray, no one's there to see you. In the masjid, As-salamu alaykum, I hear this and that. When you wake up at night in tahajjud, it is you and Allah. And that's why that dua is mustajaba. Because no one sees you. You're not making any commercial. There's no video, there's no film, there's no live broadcast, there's nothing. It's just you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah says that I respond to the one who calls upon me. Right? Let him also respond to me. So These are the times where we put our head to the floor and we ask Allah for protection, for guidance, to keep the shaitan away from us. Throughout the day, we have so many du'as. Don't let these du'as become just habit. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal khaba'ith. It's like habit. Really feel that you're seeking refuge. Entering the house, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. It shouldn't be like, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Like, feel you're actually seeking refuge in Allah. Bad thought comes, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. In salah, don't be shy when you don't have khushu to say, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Okay? Some people, they feel like, oh, if someone's going to see me doing that, they will think I'm spitting on them or something. The Prophet ﷺ said, do this. Okay? You have to seek refuge and blow 3 times. You have a very bad nightmare. You get scared, you wake up. How many people have sleep paralysis? You have nightmares. You wake up in sweat. Sometimes the same dream over and over again. You hear voices, this and that. And most people are just like, whatever. Or they run and tell someone. And the Prophet ﷺ said, say, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim again. 3 times. Don't tell your dream to anyone. Okay, do not tell these dreams. Okay, these dreams, if you look at the book of Ibn Sirin, rahimahullah, and others who talk about the dreams and have gathered all the hadith about dreams and about dream interpretation, you will find that, dreams people cannot explain. It's such dreams, even though there's psychologists have tried to study it so much, the only thing that they can, it's kind of aligns, right? The Prophet said there's 3 types of dreams. One of them is from Shaytaan, the one that scares you. Another one is from things that you see or how your brain works. And this is what psychology says usually. Right? There's different theories around dreams, but usually basically say it's how your brain basically gets rid of information or what it sees in the world, sometimes through peripheral view and so on. It goes in the subconscious and so on. This is kind of like, what in line with Islam. And then there's a third type where the Prophet ﷺ said that there will be no more wahi, but towards the end of time, there will be dreams that will come true for righteous people. And this is a form of wahi. It's not Quran, it's not Sharia, but it is things that will, and he said that's how wahi and revelation started in the first place. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ would have true dreams. And he said that towards the end of the time, this was what will come. All right? So it's amazing to see that the shaitan tries to get even there. All right? So these du'as and these ahadith that we hear about shaitan, let us not just take him like whatever. Like really, when we seek refuge, let it be that we seek refuge indeed from the accursed shaitan. Okay? Every time you say, A'udhu billahi shaitan, when you read Quran, right? You should say, A'udhu billahi shaitan rajim. Why? Well, shaitan can mess with you. You might not understand the verse. You might be like, what does this verse mean? People got confused sometimes reading the Quran. Sometimes you'll be in a halaqah, and people will be like, I don't agree with this verse. What is this verse? I don't get it. Right? It's because shaitan's messing with you. There's a reason why you should seek refuge when you're reciting the Quran. Sometimes you might make a mistake and change the meaning. Okay? And make, a'udhu billah, the wrong statements. So seek refuge. Before you eat, you should say Bismillah. Okay, there's for everything there's dua, but it's become to us a habit. And we just do it, we don't think about it, we don't feel it. Sometimes even when we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever it's just like, blah, 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 that's it, done. Right? It's like, when the Prophet ﷺ used to make dua, it was like, it's like his life. It's from the heart. Right? It's just different. Today we're just like, whatever. It's like habit. habit, habit. And Shaytaan, this is one of the deceptions of Shaytaan. That even the deen, he's made people take it as a culture or habit, and we're not very connected. We do it here and there, and so on, but there's no real feeling. And as long as we're not really attached to that, Shaitan is gonna keep going and keep taking us away and away and away from our deen. Okay? So this is, I would say, the summary of all these chapters that we've gone through, all these different types of categories of people that Ibn Jawzi goes through, rahimahullah. And we take the lesson that don't ever be confident that everything's okay, always be on guard. You have to live, of course. This deen is not hardship, it is easy, yani deen yusra. But at the same time, you have to be on guard and you have to be careful. And we're living in times of difficulties, and you can see around, yani when we're confused about basic issues, and I'm sorry, but people are confused about whether they're man or woman now. Like the basics. It's really sad. Like imagine the most apparent thing ever. You know? It's like, come on. And now people, and imagine people are believing it. People are actually like, yeah, that makes sense. Because I like the color pink, maybe I am a woman trapped in a man's body. So I should go for a surgery and change my body. And that's what Allah says, right? In the verse where it talks about the animals of sacrifice, but it says the Shaitan will make people change the creation of Allah. So they cut the ears and change the creation of Allah, right? That gets extended to anything when people try to alter and change the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, imagine what kind of change. And Allah says, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. The man is not like the woman. Very different, no matter what. And I guess to wrap this up, you know, it's so sad what's happening, especially the way they're targeting our sisters. That to be a woman today, it really means only very little in their eyes. Meaning, if I'm a man and I want to, a few surgeries, put some lipstick on, and throw a dress on, that's what it means to be a woman now. That a person can claim that I am a woman. You need to call me with she, he, she, her, you know, and so on. So it's because if they would give a woman more value, then they would understand that no, you can't do that. It's not as easy. You can't just put some lipstick on and get some surgeries done and all of a sudden you're never going to be a woman. You cannot be a woman. Right? Because you cannot be a mother. Right? You cannot get pregnant. No matter what they're going to try to do. And you look at it, they're even trying to do that, subhanAllah. They're working on these artificial wombs to attach to people and to show doctors in China working on that now, you know? Yeah, and they're playing. But you see, in the end, cannot. In the end, cannot. No matter how much you do, you see that humanity is actually regressing, going backwards. And now we're dealing with artificial intelligence, new challenge, and many, many other things. So these are all deceptions of Shaitan. Right? So extend the chapters of this book. It seemed like we were never finishing it anyway, but now imagine this should not finish till the day of judgment. Right? Always going to be a new chapter and a new category for people to be aware of.
First question is, kindly advise on some more pragmatic and modern ways of teaching young children about the fundamentals of the deen.
Okay, how to advise and teach young children in a more pragmatic way fundamentals of the deen. I think it has to be active learning. And why? It's because the Prophet ﷺ, when you read the seerah, he was always somehow doing something when he was teaching. Like he's going here, he's coming there, he's riding a horse, he's meeting with the Sahaba, right? He's in battle, he's walking with the Sahaba, they're traveling. Not a lot of times will be like the Prophet ﷺ gave a big lecture where everyone's sitting like this. In many hadith, you'll find that there's some active process involved. Right? Like for example, the hadith about the love of Allah. Right? When that woman was looking for a baby. And it was in battle, basically, after battle. And he finds him and suckles him, right? And the Prophet says, do you think Allah, or this woman would throw her child in the fire, right? No, Ya Rasulullah. Well, Allah loves, His servant more than this. Do you think Allah would throw you in the fire? Or the hadith writes around those lines. And subhanAllah, imagine, of course they understood what he meant. Now, if I teach it from a book today, okay, but it's very different, isn't it? So this is active learning. It's like contextualize. So when we talk about it, for example, I just returned from Australia, and we took the students on a farm. We spent the night there. We made a fire. The kids were preparing the food. They planted trees. We built a chicken coop and all that. But everything is related to like, okay, the Prophet did this, the Sahaba did that, this hadith, this is your responsibility, you're part of the ummah, this ayah of the Quran, then they call the adhan, then we lead salah, then we give a reminder. Everything was intertwined with like real life activities, teaching responsibility, teaching bravery, teaching, roles. And we were focusing specifically on boys because, right, they're just very lost these days. They're going to schools, they're getting into fights, they're naughty, they're disobeying their parents, and all kinds of issues. And subhanAllah, in those few days, we had amazing results. And when I asked in the end, just to give feedback, everyone remembers some hadith and ayah connected to one of the activities that we did. And if I were to just sit them in a table with a chair, it's just theoretical. So I think for kids, especially, I used to be a teacher. I used to teach grade 1. And I realized that I'm like, I could teach them for like 10 minutes. They could sit in a chair. After that, it's chaos. Right? They can't. It's impossible. Right? So I was looking at the other students. It was in Arabia. I was looking at the other teachers, and to keep the boys in check, they used to beat the students, right? Scream and shout, and shut up, you animal, bark, this and that. And sometimes I would call him up, like, bro, I need help because these kids, like, they're climbing on the walls, right? They're beating each other and this and that. And the guy would come with like a stick and just, right? And they would stay for a little bit. 5 minutes later, chaos. So, guess what? If you can't beat them, join them, right? I start teaching in chaos. We'll lock the door. I would jump on the table and like start screaming like sentences and different things, and they would scream after me, and then whoever would like listen for like 5-10 minutes, then we would play like a soccer, would just push all the tables in the classroom and have this ball, and they would love it, scream, the principal's knocking the door, just laugh, and we're like, screaming, right? What's going on in there? And I'm like, we like put the tables back, and we had like a system, like, okay, you put that table, you put that chair, everyone, within like literally like 30 seconds, everything would back. Open the door, principal's looking, these guys are sweaty, and they're all like this, they're all like, literally, they're like, what'd you do, But it was really funny, we had a system, and they learned that way, but it was exhausting for me, like I was dying. It's so hard to keep up with. That's why I quit. I was like, no way. I became a school principal. I'm like, forget you guys. I'll try to go up, But it's like that. You have to keep them engaged. There's no way these kids are just going to sit in a halaqah and learn. It's boring for them. And literally, when you look at the Sahaba, the way they learn, I'm not saying all the time. I'm not saying that everything is about jumping up and down. But there was some active process. There was something happening. There was some movement. They remembered. And that's how even modern day educational theories there'll be a connection between the data and something that will trigger a memory. And I think this was a very prophetic way of teaching, and I think we have deviated from that. Yes, there is time for sitting down and listening. Yes, this is where you have to hold yourself. But not every student will be able to. So for example, Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he says that I was one that I didn't go play with the boys. I was sitting in the house and memorizing and going to halaqat. But that's why he's Imam Shafi. Those are those bright stars and those exceptions, yeah? Other people in general are not at that level, but that doesn't mean that they're not, or they cannot learn the deen. They will learn the deen, but at a certain level. And then you have Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmad, Abu Hanifa, and all the Imams, Imam Malik, and so on, the great scholars of Islam, who are the nujum, the stars. And everyone else can be really good. Not everyone's going to sit and just be able to do and memorize, just look at the page and just memorize it, right? Not everyone will be able to do it. But people can learn. But I think we're not teaching them correctly. We need to really revamp our practices. We teach based on what's the most probably fastest, and just, gathering people in one place, give them half an hour, 1 hour, maybe a test written or whatever, and that's it, right? Like, we're not really taking time, okay, because to go for like a hike or go in the mountain or something like that, it takes time, preparation. I don't want to wake up, it's raining, right? And this and that, right? But you learn so much, right? You learn so much. For example, some of our boys got lost today. In the morning, we went for a hike. Where was it? Where is it? Kiminsa. Yeah. Right? So we went, beautiful, right? 2 boys got lost, right? But we learned a lot about navigation and mapping, and it's great. Like, literally, we solely relying on Google. There's no signal, so we had to use the picture and the map and whatever. Brother lost his keys, but we learn, right? Like, there's so much to learn in this active, and of course we're gonna do there was some reminder about the greatness of Allah, about creation. All of us felt it, right? And those boys felt it. It's amazing. We recited some ayat of the Quran, we gave some hadith. It's not like we're just, let's do this and that. No, it was really integrated. No.
That reminds me of a podcast I watched a couple of weeks ago about homeschooling. What's your take on homeschooling? I think I was getting a lot more confident than people think.
Yeah, homeschooling, the questions about homeschooling, it's getting very popular, but a lot of people are mistaking homeschooling for computer online, sitting on a computer, right? It's not like the same. An online program is not the same as homeschooling. So parents will say, okay, I'm homeschooling my children. Here's a computer. Here's a program. Okay, I'm out. You're staying at home. I'm going to work. Child is 8 hours a day on the computer, right? Ta-da-da. Okay, he's going through the program, watching the videos, responding to quizzes. After half an hour, like, I'm bored. All right, YouTube, Instagram, pak, porn sites.
I think homeschooling is maybe a privilege for those parents who has a lot of time to spend time with their kids. Not everyone has the opportunity to.
Right, so homeschooling requires a lot of work. It's like parents have to be like actively involved. I think there has to be a community. So let's say we have 15, 20 children between 5 or 6 families or whatever. So 1 week, like let's say one sister has this knowledge of science, another one does mathematics, you kind of rotate. Then the brothers will take the boys out on the weekend, let's say 2 days, and they'll have active learning. So there's a community actually involved, and not just a computer, and just it takes time and resources. That's why, again, the easy way is to just send them to school, right? So there's pros and cons, of course, to the system, because in the end, at some point, they're going to have to be in the real world. So they have to have some guided exposure as well. Like, some parents really, really protect their children, and their children won't know anything. And then they become 18, and they release them in the world. And then boom, it's chaos. They've never been able to learn and train themselves on what are the issues. So it's difficult. It's a balance, and it's not for everyone. Allah.
Now, country in Canada, my doctor was saying that the government supports that. They give mental health for parents.
In certain countries, however, it's changing now. I think in England, for example, they're trying to criminalize it. So if you're not going to go to school, you can be actually arrested. It used to be like this. It used to be in certain countries before. If you do not attend school, it's against the law, right? So it seems that England is trying to go back to that system. Allahu alam, what's going to happen with other countries? I think France as well. Like France, especially with the Muslim community, they want to make sure that the Muslims do not homeschool their children. As in, obviously, then they'll maintain their cultures. France is probably the greatest enemy of Islam at the moment, right? In terms of fighting. And subhanAllah, it's very, very strange.
Right, next question. I don't understand the question. What are your thoughts on madkhalism?
Madkhalism.
And how to best deal with such leanings? What's madkhalism?
Okay. If you guys don't know, maybe we don't go into it. It's that.
The question probably goes after every.
What?
I take it literally from the question.
Right. This was from online question.
From what I heard, radicalism is what you would call a bootlicker. So, for example, if a Muslim state or Muslim government that's not practicing governance in terms of the deen, then you have these Salafis. They would defend the Muslim government, even though the Muslim government is not practicing the deen. So there are Salafis who are anti-government. They will call these Salafis who support the government, they will call them al-Bakhali or bootlicker.
Okay. So the term madkhalism or madkhali comes from Sheikh Rabia al-Madkhali, who's a Yemeni scholar, right? So that's where the word madkhali comes from. And yeah, it is a branch of Salafism, and they basically try to tell people not to criticize the Muslim rulers, even if they are wrong in many apparent things, right? There's a lot of back and forth between Salafis who are against this and Salafis who are for this. Even within Salafism, there's a lot of differences. Okay, this is Shaytaan again, you know. It's the deception of Shaytaan. Okay, and I would say whenever we look at different groups, right, especially when labels come out and name callings and stuff, we have to take a step back and understand the issues, right? A lot of people speak out of emotion, right? We should always stick to the argument and try not to go into labels, because it makes your argument weaker, right? When you start labeling, you start putting out slogans, right? Then it makes your argument weaker. Always attack the argument, right? The issue.
What do you mean?
So if I start calling you Wahhabi because you are, more inclined towards the Sunnah, it's just a label. I keep pushing you. You're Wahhabi, you're extremist, you're this and that. What is it? Or fundamentalist. You're a fundamentalist. Why? Because I stick to the fundamentals of Islam. But it's labels. When people start putting labels, this can cause people to not look into the matter itself and really understand it, right? Versus understanding it. And okay, I don't agree with it, but if I want to do doubt to someone, let's say I'm talking to whatever sect of Islam and whatever difference, my intention should be to try to give them dawah and to bring them to the fold of the Sunnah or to the correct way. If I start naming people and start always saying you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, most likely the person is not going to accept anything I say. And this is a very big human flaw that we have. As soon as we have an issue with someone, we start calling names. And you can see there's so many names within the Muslim, there's always some derogatory names that are used. towards different variations of people's practices, right? So with the madkhalis, okay, basically, yes, there's an inclination towards the government, and even if they're making mistakes and so on, they will not criticize or take anything to make any changes or anything like that. However, if maybe another Muslim does something wrong, then they will take him out, right? So it's kind of like that. They're called on that double standard, basically. So let's say if the brother would have some idea or something like that, they will cancel him, refute him online, this and that. But if another person would have those ideas that is in power, then that person will be, we cannot, will excuse them. This is kind of what seems to be happening. So a lot of people, of course, are angry with that and don't agree. They call it double standard, and there's a lot of fitna between the brothers when it comes to this. SubhanAllah. May Allah protect us.
Okay, the next question. Does wahdatul wujud is part of the tasawwuf?
Wahdatul wujud, it is the philosophy of Ibn Arabi. We talked about Ibn Arabi and Ibn al-Arabi. Big difference, right? Okay, Ibn Arabi is the Sufi Andalusian scholar, the one in Ertugrul, okay? If you guys saw him, nice looking with a nice beard, okay? And Ibn al-Arabi is the author of the book that we studied, right? Defense Against Disaster. He was the great scholar of Islam. So Ibn Arabi, he came up with this idea. It's from the Sufi background, and he said that basically, like Allah is present in everything, basically, right? Even in Him, he would say. So it's called Wahd al-Wujud. It's this concept. So many of the scholars made takfir on him. They said this is a kufr, right? To believe that Allah is inside of you, or, you know, and so on. So yet it is a branch of, or part of the Tasawwuf. Not all the Sufis believe in it. Okay, not all the Sufis believe in it. Actually, many did not. Okay, many did not. And even from the Sufi scholars, some of them made takfir on Ibn Arabi.
Next question. How do I keep myself motivated when I'm constantly confronted with close family members and friends having serious problems and sadness?
How do I keep motivated when I get confronted with family members and friends? They have serious problems and sadness. Okay, so sometimes because your family has like emotional attachment to you, it's very hard to deal with them. Actually, probably that's one of the hardest person to deal with, someone who's closest to you, who loves you, your mother, your sister, people they have emotional attachments with. Hard to advise them, hard to get advice from them, right? So someone from your family can tell you, come on, do this, 1, 2, 3, and you're like, nah. And then some stranger will come and tell you the same thing, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You know, it's because it's hard for us to really understand that. And a lot of the tests came even to the Anbiya. It came from their families. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, his tribe were the ones who gave him the hardest trouble. It was very difficult for him because it hurt him so much. Many people passed away at the time of Prophet ﷺ, and yeah, the Prophet ﷺ was sad, but not as sad as Abu Talib, for example. Right? And look how much he tried, and it was so painful for him. Why? Because there was an emotional attachment. Right? So, if you're seeking for help, usually, and support, I would say try someone who is a professional in the field, who doesn't have an emotional attachment. Because some people, they'll not tell you, because they love you, because they care for you, they might not be able to objectively advise you. Right? They might not be able to objectively advise you. And sometimes you go to someone who's very close to you, and they'll just tell you, it's okay, don't worry, you know. Right? That's not how you advise someone. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe I need to tell you, wait a second, this is not just to make you feel better. Advice is not just to make someone feel better. Advice is to really give someone a recipe for change or to amend them. So, again, the Prophet ﷺ, the system that he gave us is that فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. When you're confused, you have issues, try to go to people who have knowledge and experience, because they're not going to be like, oh, it's so hard. Like, even for myself, like the hardest people to deal with and to advise, even though I'm a counselor, is to counsel my family. Is the hardest. You know, it's so hard. Like, I can counsel anyone, no problem. When it comes to my family, it's like, I forget everything. I don't know how to do it. Like, what? Nothing works. Right? It's so difficult. It's so difficult, subhanAllah. So look for, an imam, someone who's a mentor, someone who, right, who can protect your identity and can, this is important.
Next question comes from a single mom, I suppose. She asked how to keep energy going as a single mom.
How to keep energy going as a single mom. Okay. 100 plus. They have a protein one now, isn't it? New one. Right. No, like, I think because it's difficult to be a single mother. You have to take care of the kids. And most likely, she also has to play the role of a man. Probably she has to work and provide for the kids as well, right? So it's like, most single mothers will have this dichotomy, this double personality. It's like almost like a bipolar, so in one you have to be strong and provide and this and that. In another one you have to be soft and take care of the kids and nurturing. So it's like back and forth, and that's very unhealthy for women, because they're not created to do that. They're created to be in their nurturing sense. Yet because of some of the circumstances, they're forced to kind of oscillate between these two extremes. So they lose their energy. It becomes very, very difficult. So, of course, first and foremost, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen you, right, in your intentions. Try to get help and support from people. You should definitely try to get married. I know people don't think about like, oh, it's a solution, but it is though. Look at the sahabiyat. Look at some of the wives of Prophet ﷺ. Right? Husband would die, then they would get married. There was no stigma like the way it is today, right? And there was no like even arrogance in them, like I don't need a man anymore. I was married, khalas, I'm done, right? No, they just got married because men need women and women need men. It's just the way it is, right? So that can help. Try to focus on take care of your sleep. Okay, eat well. Vitamins, very important. Take vitamins. Vitamin C, vitamin D, extremely important. Like dates and black seed, very important. Read ruqya on yourself, very important again, right? Good quality sleep. Even if you sleep 6-7 hours, make sure there's no light, no light pollution, no noise pollution. Try to get it as good quality as possible. And try to arrange yourself. Like vitamins, I think, are extremely important. Like we are lacking vitamins. The environment is kind of like against us. Everything is kind of like killing us. Plastic, this, pollution. So vitamin C, I always recommend vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium. These are extremely important to have like always with you. It's easy. You just go to pharmacy and just get, the pills. And even like vitamin C, sometimes sadly people take like 100 milligrams, just a little pill here. No, I take about 5,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C. Sometimes when I'm like tired, 7,000, 10,000. And I know people are like, oh no, this isn't that. But it's very important. Like for a proper adult, yeah, you can't do a 50 mils or anything like that. I think, like a good 2,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C. Be careful with the vitamin D, not so much, obviously. Magnesium. These are very important to take. One thing that I've been experimenting with a lot recently, you can do some research. It's sea moss. It's called Irish sea moss. It's literally like algae, right? So you can buy it and you wash it and then you basically blend it into a protein. It contains almost like most of the nutrients that your body needs. There's been a lot of studies recently. You can look into it, inshallah. Doesn't taste that good, but you can actually blend it into like a shake or add some fruits or whatever. It's called Irish sea moss, you know. And you buy it dry. You put it in water first, let it soak, wash it. You can look on YouTube how to do it, and it's really really good for you. You'll find some huge changes in your health. Yeah.
Next question, how does one find
Oh yeah, by the way, I have this advisor he's a Russian sister. She's a doctor, a PhD in Japan in one of the universities, and she's like a specialist in this. So I always consult her, and she looks at the research and all that. So it's like a private consultant for me. And she always says, "You look tired in your videos. Take this, take that, do this," and she'll send me like the research papers and all that. So she's like in Japan, mashallah, in one of the high universities. She's a PhD in nutrition and a specialist in nutrition. Irish, like Irish, yeah. C-S-E-A, Moss, M-O-S-S, I think, yeah? Is it? M-O-S-S. Yeah.
how does one find purpose in his life and have a goal if he sometimes get a feeling of not having one? And how to actually achieve that by creating discipline?
Okay, how does one feel
How
to find purpose in life, and how do you feel like you're achieving that? How do you create that purpose? Of course, يعني وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. This is standard. This is our main objective in life, to worship Allah. But it's not linked only to prayer and ibadah. And this is where I believe most of us are lost, because we're not involved in anything. Like, we're just kind of living and things. Okay, we pray, we fast, but not more than that. And especially for like, it's a crisis in men. Men are extremely weak today because by fitra, men are purpose driven. Like, they have to chase something. And if you look at the history of humanity, right? If you look in the history of humanity, men have always chased something. Sometimes the bad things, right? That's just the way it is. Starting wars, fighting, conquering, all this, right? And Islam came to fine-tune that and to restrict those desires, right? But now men are just like doing nothing. Literally, it'll be like our greatest purpose is pretty much your job, if you have one, right? Even that, to some people, it's a big problem, right? So that has really destroyed and emasculated. And that's because even in our school, it only teaches you like to just get a job. That's it. That's pretty much what life pushes you on, right? If you look at the Jews, man, the Jews really, really believe that they're the chosen ones. They teach their children from young that you are meant to rule the world. They instill this desire into them. As a Jew, you can go to the occupied lands for free, and they'll give you this purpose. They'll take you on a tour. They show you all the history, this and that. They take you to the Old Testament, the Torah, and the promise of God, and this and that, and really drive it into them that this is your identity and you are destined to rule the world. So you find Jews with the highest IQ. Look at the studies. Jews have some of the highest IQs in the world, the strongest education. England, wherever they are, you go to England and see how they live. Their neighborhoods are patrolled by their own police. They have their own ambulance services. They have their own schools. No one can mess with them, right? LGBTQ cannot penetrate in their communities. I mean, it'll happen here and there, but not like in the Muslim community. It's like, psh, right? It's like, if you do not, like right now, if you do not accept this in some masajid in the West, they're actually thinking to revoke their charity licenses. So if a masjid is not going to accept, for example, an LGBTQ member, they can revoke that's what they're thinking to do, and they're going to push for it. You cannot do that with the Jews. The Jews will be like, we don't need your charity. What do you want? We give you charity. Do you understand? Right? Because there's this, they are drilled in from day one. One thing I noticed, when I travel, and I travel a lot. I'm a lot in airports. And I love to observe people. And I've done this sample population study where I look at Jews. They're never shy to pray in the airport. Like they'll pray like the whole shebang will be on and in front of everyone. They don't care. That's number one. Number two, in general, I have not noticed yet so far any exceptions. There might be exceptions. They don't have smartphones. They do not use smartphones. It's always one of those old flip phones, Motorola. And I keep looking for it. It was weird. On purpose, sometimes they're probably like, what is this guy staring at? I'm trying to see what phone they're going to use. If I'm in New York, especially in New York airports, there's a lot of them, right? Anytime in the US specifically, London, Australia, if you're in Europe, like Ukraine, that area, you find a lot of Jews in the airports passing through, going through, and so on. In Turkey, I always see them, they don't have smartphones. They're not sitting on the phone on their chair and, checking TikTok and stuff like that. No, they're talking to each other. They're reading the Torah. I'm talking about the practicing one, the other ones, But in general, that's what I've noticed. SubhanAllah, it was very, very interesting to see this. So, we don't have purpose. Even though Allah has given us a purpose, I don't think our own people are encouraging us over and over. Come on, guys. You have been selected by Allah to be the ummah. Right? This is the ummah that Allah has selected for this dunya. Yes, the Jews had it before, messed it up. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? But we lost our purpose and our direction. Like we should teach our kids from young that you are, the leaders of the world. You will lift these atrocities and these evil things from the world. You will do it. We're like, we don't want to upset anyone. I don't know if it's politically correct or this and that. The French, they teach about Napoleon. Napoleon, he was racist and he was a killer. But the French are so proud of Napoleon, isn't it? It's like proper, this is what it means. The statues and this and that and all the history, proud. Even though he was a killer, right? So, Americans teach about Columbus, even though he killed so many indigenous people. Hundreds of thousands, right? But they're proud of it. Right? They celebrate Thanksgiving and Columbus Day and all that, right? So only the Muslims are shy. We don't want to upset anyone. Let's be, That doesn't mean you're going to go and kill someone. We're not saying that. It's just you should be proud of who you are. You should understand your purpose, and you should push to be the best person you can to give Islam to. And Islam should be number one. That should be our main purpose, right? With whatever we do, Islam should be number one. Of course, we cannot leave without addressing what's going on today in Palestine. First and foremost, Bismillah, I want to say, it's not the deception of Shaytaan that people think this is a Palestinian issue. Palestine. This is an issue of the Ummah. It boils my blood when I see these Palestinian activists who are saying this is a Palestinian national liberation movement, this and that. You will never win this battle like that. It cannot. This is an Ummah issue. Because, and the reasons for that, and the proof for that is that Al-Aqsa is the third holiest site in the deen. This is by deen. You cannot visit any other masjid for the purpose of ibadah and get reward except for Mecca, Medina, Al-Aqsa. These are the three. Okay? It's part of our aqidah. It's part of our deen. It's part of who we are as Muslims. Yeah, you're Malay, you're Malaysia, but you feel the pain because it's not just, it's yours. This is the deen. This is where the Prophet ﷺ ascended to the heavens. And yes, these are our brothers and our sisters. Different ethnicity, but these are our brothers in Islam. and our sisters in Islam. So we have to feel that this is an issue of the ummah, the deen.
What can we do?
Yeah, very good question, right? So even dua now is like almost forbidden in some places, you know? Like people cannot even make dua. I was talking to someone today and they said, we can't make dua because we will end up in jail. You know, if you start saying, oh Allah, destroy this, the enemies of Islam, or may Allah, you'll get, after you finish the dua, done, finish. So imagine, like when I arrived in Malaysia, okay, it was Monday or something, morning, it was right before Fajr, went to pray in Yellow Mosque, and right away the Imam was making dua against, the enemies of Islam, and I was like so overtaken, because I haven't heard it. Right? And I wasn't even thinking about it. I wanted to pray Fajr, right? Like, look how desensitized we are, right? I was just tired, and as soon as he made dua and kunut for the people of Palestine, right? It just hits you like, oh my God, he's making dua. Like, almost like, oh, what's going to happen? Right? Like, how sad is that? Right? So some people don't even make dua. And it shouldn't be we just make dua. Like, we should try our best to push back and on a government level, on the ummah level. Like, we're so big, we have so much. I'm telling you again, if anyone dares to do anything to the Jews again, you'll see what happens, right? They will not accept. Did anyone ever dare to burn the Torah or the Talmud or something like that? Imagine. They cannot. They will be, or to deny the Holocaust or something like that. Imagine there's laws that will jail you if you deny the Holocaust. And how many, 30 countries or something? You can go to jail for more than 10 years for just saying, I don't believe it existed. Okay, I believe it existed, but if you say, let's say you're entitled to your own opinion, you can go to jail. Imagine how strong the lobby is. Why can't the Muslims do it? Are we what? We don't have resources? What we do? We have a lot of resources. What is it? It's that we are cowards. We have a lot of cowards in this ummah. A lot of cowardish behavior. And this is the way it is. And Allah addresses this in the Quran. Specifically regarding with this issue of awliya. Specifically with the fear of thinking that these people have power over you. It is this way. So we have to keep alive at least the cause and know this is an issue of ummah. When I start hearing the ulama saying it's not your problem, let the people deal with these things, they're trying to erase it from us. Look what's happening. Look at the position of the Muslim countries on this issue 10, 20 years ago, and look at it today. It's changing so much. To the point where these people are going to now go on the other side. You know what I mean? And there will be a time where we'll forget about this who and how and where and what and so on and so forth. So we have to keep the history alive. We have to keep the feelings alive. We have to keep teaching, raising awareness. For many people, their hands are tied. Okay? Like they want to silence you. You can't even have a proper debate. You can't even have a discussion because there's some law or some regulation. Some airport will pick you up, some security will lock you down. For what? What'd you say? I thought there's freedom of expression. You can express everything you want except for what they don't want you to. Right? So at least we should keep the issue alive, teach the history, and so on. And to all those people who have the ability to do something, they have the position, the authority. I know it's not easy. I know some people say, well, it's not so easy. Being in power is not that easy. For us, maybe we can say, yeah, he should do this. It's very difficult. It's probably one of the biggest fitnas in this dunya is to be in power. As the Prophet ﷺ said, don't seek leadership. Right? There's a lot of fitna with it. Yeah, do not seek leadership. Right? It's a big fitna. But a lot of people, the ummah, we have the resources, we have the ability, but we're not able to. People don't do anything. And those who had strong positions are gone now. Right? They were. We had some leaders who, yeah, with all their mistakes, but at least they had some strong positions on this issue. At least the Ummah was united on this one thing. At least the Ummah was united on the issue of Palestine. And now we're split on it as well. SubhanAllah. How sad is that? You got a question?
Yeah. It is prophesied that one day the Palestinians would achieve victory, but how will that manifest? How will that manifest for them?
Yeah, so first of all, keep in mind it's not about Palestinians again. The area used to be called Sham. Okay, it's been divided in Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, and so on, parts of Turkey and whatnot, Jordan. So it used to be called the Sham, okay, Bilad al-Sham. So when they divided in these, so it was to, and they get flags and so on, it was to make divisions, to make them weaker. In our deen, it is very clear that this will be achieved through war. It will be war. I'm not gonna, play around with it. It's just war. It's gonna be war. Okay, and that's what's happening right now, and it's not changed for the longest time, so I'm not going to give you some, it's war, it's going to be war, right? There's going to be a great war, and after that, Isa alayhi salam will come, there'll be the Dajjal, all these things that's trying to be erased from our deen now. Actually, in some Muslim countries, it's being taken away from the curriculum. Yes, the books are being changed, yes, sadly, yes. You can check it by, it's, for those who have lived in some of these countries, maybe like you went to school there 20, 30 years ago, and you check today the books, they're very much now trying to erase that. Okay, so, yeah, it will be through war. It will be through war. Yeah.
So since we know it's going to happen, and we just keep going on our path, and it's going to happen anyway, we know it's going to happen.
Yeah, of course it's going to happen. We have to keep focusing. Like the Muslims cannot just say, okay, here I am, me, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's do something, because that causes problems. You're not going to solve anything. You're going to cause more problems. When the Muslims went to war, they were united, right? There was a leader who declares that. There's a judgment, there's a responsibility, there's planning, and so on, right? It was always like that. Obviously, because of emotions, some people start doing stuff, right? That you get into like terrorism, supposedly, right? And all these like guerrilla type of tactics and groups, right? And even though people might try to justify it from a fiqh perspective, in the end, when you look at the maqasid of the deen, you'll find that it's caused a lot of problems, right? Because yes, the Muslims would go for jihad and for battles and for war. There's no doubt. I mean, this is our history, right? Just because we talk about jihad doesn't mean that we're terrorists, right? The French, when they talk about their colonial history, okay, they say, well, this doesn't make us terrorists. We're just talking about history. Oh, it doesn't matter. We killed millions of Algerians and took their heads and put them in France in a museum. It's our history, right? We're just talking about it. We're not encouraging that. So we Muslims are not saying go to war right now, but we're talking about our history. That this was, the jihad was there, and there was, amazing battles, great champions we had, right? Our Khalid bin Walid and Umar Khattab and all the great warriors of Islam were there, right? So we have to know our history and know our champions. But the Ummah was, when it came to jihad, it was always united, and there was always the hukum of a hakim, and it went to war like that, not in 2 people here, 5 people there, 10 people there, 1,000 people here, right? Whenever the Muslims started doing these things, you see that it ended up in disaster, right? So the Ummah was always, when they went to war, there was a call for jihad, there's rules, regulations. It's like, see, the deen is like a constitution, right? It has its constitution, its laws and everything. And that's when the Westerns try to say, oh, you guys are jihadists and terrorists and this and that. Yeah, but like if you look at your constitution, like check the American Constitution, the British Constitution, everything has articles of war and war engagement and this and that. Every constitution will have parts. So how come we are terrorists and you're not? And because they think of religion as a pastime, right? So they think, oh, you guys have it in your religion. Yeah, but our religion is our life, is our constitution. It's like, think of the Ummah as one country basically that has laws and regulations and a constitution. The constitution, dustur, is the Quran, Sunnah. So that's how we live. That's how it is. So you look at England, look at France, look, any country will have their laws for jihad, basically, right? So no one calls them terrorists, right? So how come we're terrorists, right? No. So please keep teaching, keep raising awareness, make dua. I know there's Aman Palestine here, Palestine, right? There's organization that
We are
basically.
working with Viva Palestine.
Viva Palestine, okay, so they're working here. Anything we can do to help and support. And hopefully our governments and our people, will put some pressure, because they can. They can. At least, I'm not saying go to war. At least boycott. At least pull your ambassadors. At least, do something. Boycott, certain things. It's very simple, right? When Trump had problems with the French, okay, very smart. He said, okay, I will put a huge imposit on wines. And this is going to cause a huge financial blow. Obviously, people drink wine, and it's usually French wine. A'udhu billahi. So Trump was very smart. He said, okay. So Macron tried to do something. He called him up and he said, okay, no problem, but I'm going to put this imposit on wine. And the guy said, no, wait, okay, cool. I'm going to pull back. You got to be, it's a chess game. You got to be smart. I don't know, I'm not saying, khalas, start sending armies and, people can do stuff, but no one's doing anything. Allah.
There are stories that I'm hearing news that Egypt is, instead of allowing Palestinians to come into their border, they're making it more tight, like they're tightening the border.
It's a long story when it comes to Egypt. It's been happening for the longest time. It's not the first time. They closed their borders a long time ago. It's Gaza, where the border is the biggest man-made prison in the world, open space. And sadly, that border has been closed for a long, long time. It's not now. It's been, God. Right? So, yeah. JazakAllah khair. Barakallah fikum. May Allah bless all of you. Inshallah. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.